There's a power inside you that no one taught you how to use, but every man feels it when you walk into the room. It's not about your looks, your words, or what you do. It's something else, something ancient. And you've probably felt it too, like a quiet storm beneath your skin, rising in moments you can't quite explain. This isn't a coincidence. Carl Jung, one of the most influential minds in psychology, called it the feminine archetype. A deep primal energy rooted in intuition, mystery, and presence. Most women have never been shown how to understand it, let alone embrace it. But it drives men wild, even when they can't put it into words. What if that magnetic force isn't something to hide, but something to claim? If you've ever felt like there's something powerful inside you waiting to be awakened, stay with me. You're about to see why everything starts to change the moment you stop dimming your light. Have you ever walked into a room and felt eyes on you, not because of what you wore, but something deeper? It's not always attention you can name. Sometimes it's subtle. A glance held too long. A sudden shift in energy. A man who seems rattled, off balance, as if he can feel something from you that he doesn't quite understand. That feeling? That's not an accident. And it's definitely not your imagination. It's the invisible current running through you, one you may not be fully aware of, but one that others, especially men, pick up on instinctively. Carl Jung had a name for this kind of influence. He believed that beyond the conscious mind, we all carry patterns and symbols, what he called the collective unconscious. And within it, powerful forces move beneath the surface. You, as a woman, carry certain archetypes within you. Not because you were taught to, but because they are part of your psychological blueprint. These aren't just concepts, they're living energies. Think of the woman who enters a space and instantly changes the atmosphere without saying a word. She may not even try to be noticed, but people notice her anyway. It's like a field around her, quiet but undeniable. Jung would say she's embodying an archetype. Maybe the muse who inspires without effort. Maybe the healer whose very presence makes others soften. Or perhaps the enchantress. The one whose depth and mystery stir something primal in the masculine psyche. You may recognize pieces of each within yourself, or feel drawn to one more than the others. The truth is, none of them are just roles. They're deep psychological truths waiting to be expressed. Here's the secret most people don't talk about. Men react to these energies long before they register anything on a conscious level. They can't explain it. They may not even understand why they suddenly feel drawn to you or why they can't seem to look away. But the pull is real. It's instinctive. It taps into something ancient and unspoken, a recognition far older than modern romance. This is what makes your energy so powerful. It's not about doing. It's about being. It's about what you carry without effort, your emotional texture, your presence, your intuitive rhythm. That's what men feel, even if they can't name it. You've probably experienced this without knowing exactly why. Maybe there are men who become nervous around you, who shift from confident to unsure. Maybe someone once told you that you intimidate men, or that they feel drawn in but don't know why. That's not just chemistry. That's your unconscious energy at work. It's your archetype speaking before you ever open your mouth. And here's the thing, this energy doesn't come from being louder, more polished, or more perfect. In fact, it shows up most powerfully when you stop performing and start allowing. When you let go of the masks you've been told to wear and drop into the truth of who you are. Have you noticed certain men seem overwhelmed around you for no clear reason? That's not in your head. That's resonance. That's you touching something deep in them, something they may not have faced in themselves. Jung believed that when a man encounters the feminine archetype in her true form, it confronts him with his own unconscious. It wakes up emotions, memories, and dreams he didn't know he still carried. That's why some men lean in and others pull away. Not because of you, but because of what you represent. And that's why understanding this current inside you isn't just fascinating, it's transformative. Because the moment you become aware of it, you stop questioning your impact. You stop trying to shrink it. You stop mistaking it for something you need to control or explain. You begin to stand in it, fully, unapologetically. You begin to realize you were never too much. You were never confusing. You were simply powerful in a way the world doesn't teach women to be and men don't always know how to receive. So the next time you feel that silent ripple in the room, that subtle shift in the air as you walk in, trust it. That's your energy speaking. That's your archetype in motion. And the more you know her, the more unstoppable you become. We're just getting started. Since you were a girl, the world taught you to shrink, smile more, speak less, play nice. Don't be too loud. Don't take up too much space. Don't make anyone uncomfortable. Be likable. Be polite. Be small. And maybe you learned. Maybe you learned to hold your tongue even when your truth was rising like fire in your chest. Maybe you smiled through things that didn't feel right. Maybe you dimmed your light just enough so others wouldn't feel threatened by your glow. But what if the very parts of you that were silenced are the ones that hold your real power? Carl Jung called it the shadow. The hidden side of your psyche that holds the emotions, desires, and instincts you were taught to suppress. It's not evil. It's not wrong. It's simply repressed. The rage you were told wasn't ladylike. The wildness you were told was dangerous. The sensuality you were told made you a threat. The ambition, the intuition, the raw truth of who you are, they all live there. And here's the secret the world never taught you. The shadow isn't something to avoid. It's something to reclaim. Because the moment you start integrating your shadow, you stop living a watered-down version of yourself. You stop apologizing for being too intense, too sensitive, too intuitive, too sexual, too much. And something incredible happens. People feel you differently, especially men. That's because your shadow carries a magnetic, untamed energy. It's unpredictable, it's real, and it doesn't try to fit in. That authenticity is rare and deeply attractive. Not in the way magazines sell you attraction, but in the way the human soul responds to truth. Have you ever met a woman who made the air shift just by being present? She's not the loudest in the room, she doesn't need attention, but there's something in her, the way she holds herself, the quiet fire behind her eyes that makes you pay attention. That's a woman who has met her shadow. She's not running from her darkness anymore. She's standing in it. And when a man encounters that, it challenges him. It stirs something in him that he can't rationalize. He may try to define it, even resist it. But deep down, he feels it, the depth, the complexity, the power. Not just surface beauty, but something older, something sacred. The reason this energy is so powerful is because it is complete. It is not just light, it is both light and dark. And when you allow yourself to feel the full spectrum of who you are without censoring it, you become unforgettable. What part of you have you kept hidden? Not because it's wrong, but because the world told you to. Is it your anger? That sharp, burning clarity that tells you when something is not right? Is it your sensuality? The way your body knows how to move, how to feel, how to attract without shame? Is it your ambition? Your need for freedom? Your refusal to be controlled? None of those parts make you less feminine. They make you whole. And the more you disown them, the more disconnected you feel. You might look polished on the outside, but inside, something aches for permission to breathe. Here's what Jung believed. Whatever you push into the shadow doesn't go away, it grows stronger. And it shows up in your relationships, your moods, your patterns. Until you face it, you will keep attracting situations that poke at it. People who trigger it. Partners who reflect it. But when you face it, when you pull those parts back into your heart, not to shame them, but to understand them, you become powerful in a way that can't be faked. You stop needing to be chosen. You stop chasing validation. You start radiating a kind of presence that says, I know who I am, and I'm not afraid of myself. That presence is what men feel. That's what makes them pause. That's what makes them remember you, long after you've left the room. You don't need to be perfect to be powerful. You just need to stop pretending you're only light. You are depth. You are fire. You are instinct. You are soul. The world may have taught you to fear your shadow, but now, it's time to meet her. She's not here to destroy your life. She's here to make it real. And when you let her in, when you embrace the fullness of who you are, you don't just become more magnetic, you become whole. That's when everything starts to change. Being feminine isn't about being small, it's about knowing the storm inside you and choosing when to let it roar. It's not about shrinking to be liked. It's about standing in your power so fully, you no longer need permission to exist. For so long, femininity has been mistaken for weakness, quietness, obedience, soft hands and polite smiles. But that's not the full truth. That's a watered-down version sold to you to keep your power contained. The feminine archetype at its root is not passive. It is powerful in a different language. It is yin energy, magnetic, mysterious, deeply intuitive. It does not chase, it draws in. It doesn't overpower with force, but transforms everything it touches. It is the moon pulling at the tides. It is water carving through stone. Soft, yes, but never weak. Compare this to the masculine archetype yang energy. Direct, structured, focused on logic, results, action. Our world has long been shaped by that energy. It values doing over being, speed over depth, control over flow. And while that has its place, it is only half of the whole. Your feminine energy is the other half. And when you live from it, when you trust it, you move differently. You listen not just with your ears, but with your body. You sense what's unsaid. You feel your way through situations. You connect, not just communicate. You hold space, not just fill silence. Men feel this. They may not always understand it, but they feel it in their bodies. It touches something deep, something unspoken. It awakens their unconscious, where their own feminine energy sleeps. That's why it stirs them. That's why it stays with them. Because your feminine energy doesn't make sense in a spreadsheet. It doesn't follow straight lines. It's wild, shifting, mysterious. And that mystery, when it's not masked or muted, is electric. When you're rooted in your feminine archetype, you don't need to chase attention. You don't need to prove your worth. You become the kind of woman people move toward without knowing why. Not because you said the right thing, but because your presence said everything. You've probably felt the difference. There are times when you push and perform, when you overthink, overgive, try to get it all right. And somehow, people drift, or you feel invisible. And then there are other moments when you drop into yourself, breathe deeply, move with ease. You stop trying to control how you're perceived. You trust yourself. And suddenly, they come closer. The energy changes. You feel seen without asking to be. That is feminine power. Not loud, not demanding, but undeniable. It's also healing. Because when you live in this space, you're no longer fighting against your nature. You're no longer forcing your way through life using rules that were never meant for you. You begin to lead from your center, not your fear. And that changes everything. But this power can only rise when you stop confusing femininity with perfection. The feminine is not about being polished. It's about being real, raw when needed, receptive when it matters, fierce when the truth calls for it. It is the archetype of the queen who commands without shouting, the wild woman who dances without waiting to be watched, the mystic who sees with her inner eye. These aren't fantasies. These are parts of you that already live inside. They just need space to breathe. When was the last time you let yourself move through life intuitively, not logically? When was the last time you trusted a feeling without needing to justify it? That's the path back to your feminine center. Not a set of rules, but a returning, a remembering. And the more you live from that place, the more you notice people respond to you differently. Men don't just notice you, they feel you. Your energy lingers, not because you tried to impress, but because you stopped trying to be anything but yourself. That is not small. That is not soft. That is power. And the moment you stop waiting for the world to give you permission to own it, that's the moment you begin to unlock something that cannot be explained but will always be felt. Your power has never been the problem, only the way the world made you fear it. From a young age, women are warned about being too much, too expressive, too intense, too sexy, too emotional. You were probably told to be careful with how you dressed, how you moved, how you looked at someone, because heaven forbid someone might misread your energy. You were taught to believe that if you were magnetic, you were dangerous. And if you drew attention, it must be your fault. So you dimmed yourself, not because you wanted to, but because you learned to survive that way. But here's the truth. There is nothing shameful about being radiant. Real magnetism doesn't come from pushing or performing. It doesn't come from trying to be desirable. Carl Jung understood that the most powerful form of attraction is not rooted in appearance, it's rooted in embodiment. in a woman fully inhabiting her truth, her emotions, her presence. The energy that makes people stop and feel something isn't skin deep, it's soul deep. It's what happens when you stop censoring yourself. When you allow your real emotions, not just the pretty ones, to take up space. When you speak with conviction, move with intention, and trust your gut instead of second-guessing it. That's what makes you unforgettable. And that's what stirs the masculine psyche more than anything else, because it comes from a place that cannot be faked. So how do you awaken that energy without guilt? Without the weight of shame? It starts by reconnecting with your intuition. That quiet voice inside you that knows before you know. The one that senses what's off, what's right, what's yours. You were born with it, but the world trained you to ignore it, to rationalize, to explain, to fit in. But when you start honoring that inner voice, when you stop needing proof before you trust what you feel, you begin to reclaim something ancient. Next, let yourself feel deeply. Not just the emotions that are easy to share, but the ones you've been taught to hide. The anger, the longing, the grief, the pleasure. Emotion is not weakness, it's energy in motion. And when you allow it to move through you, you become fully alive. You stop being numb and start becoming real. Finally, stand in your uniqueness. That strange little thing about you that doesn't quite fit in the way you laugh too loudly, the way your mind connects dots others don't see, the bold colors you wear when no one else does. That's not a flaw. That's your magic. The siren archetype isn't the most beautiful woman in the room. She's the one who owns her essence so fully that people can't look away. Think about the women who've captivated you. They weren't perfect. They didn't follow the rules. But they knew who they were. They were unapologetically themselves. That's what magnetism looks like, knowing your value without explanation. Let me give you a picture. She walks into the room, no dramatic entrance, no show. But there's a stillness in her that pulls you in. She's not trying to be anything. She's just there, present, grounded, real. She laughs from the belly. She says what she means. And you can tell she's not hiding. Men don't fall for her because she's flawless. They fall because she is whole. Because being around her makes them feel more alive, more awake. She doesn't try to be light all the time. She owns her shadows, her wildness, her softness, her edge. That's what makes her unforgettable. What if you stopped apologizing for how magnetic you are? What if you let go of the fear that someone else's discomfort means you need to shrink? You don't have to earn your right to be radiant. You don't have to prove your worth by hiding what makes you powerful. You already have the energy, the presence, the fire. You've just been taught to feel guilty for using it. But shame was never yours to carry. So today, choose to drop it. Choose to move through life not seeking approval, but expressing truth. Choose to listen to your body, to your knowing, to your wildness. Choose to be the woman who doesn't ask for permission to be magnetic, because she already is. And when you do, you won't just feel different. You'll move different. And the world around you will start responding in ways you never expected, not because you became someone else, but because you finally came home to who you are. The most powerful woman isn't the loudest in the room. She's the one who knows exactly who she is. She doesn't need to dominate the space, perform for approval, or prove her value. Her presence is enough. Because she's done something rare. She's integrated. Carl Jung called this process individuation, the journey of becoming whole. Not perfect, not polished, whole. And to get there, you don't just embrace your light. You also claim your shadow. You bring home the parts of yourself you were taught to exile. Your sensitivity, your hunger, your sadness, your boldness, your depth, everything. This is the woman who doesn't need to be chosen because she has already chosen herself. And that's the kind of woman no one can control. She's not easily labeled. One moment she's calm, grounded, holding space. The next, she's on fire, calling out what's true, no matter how uncomfortable it is. She can be still and silent, but when she speaks, every word lands. She is softness without weakness, strength without armor. She is the woman men feel but cannot predict. And that's what stirs something wild in them, not just attraction, but a kind of awe. Because she reminds them of something they've forgotten in themselves. She doesn't fit the mold, and she doesn't try to. You may have spent years trying to be understandable, acceptable, digestible. You may have believed that in order to be loved, you had to play it safe. Keep your brilliance manageable, your emotions in check, your wildness tamed. But the truth is, love does not live in control. And the most magnetic version of you will never be the most agreeable version. When a woman integrates her light and her dark, she becomes unpredictable in the best way, not erratic, but alive. She laughs fully, loves deeply, sets boundaries with grace. She allows herself to be seen, but refuses to be defined by someone else's lens. This kind of wholeness creates energy. It draws people in, not because you're following a formula, but because you are unfiltered and real. That kind of woman can't be possessed. She can be loved, respected, inspired by, but never owned. That's what makes her unforgettable. And here's what might surprise you: this version of you already exists. She's not waiting to be built. She's waiting to be allowed. You don't need to hustle for her. You just need to stop abandoning her every time the world gets uncomfortable. You become her by listening more closely to your own voice than to the noise around you. By choosing truth over approval, wholeness over perfection, depth over safety. You become her by letting the different sides of you sit at the same table: your softness and your fire, your tenderness and your clarity, your need for love and your self-reliance. You become her the moment you stop being afraid of who you really are. Are you ready to become someone no one can define but you? Because when you do, you step into a kind of freedom that doesn't rely on being wanted. You no longer walk into a room wondering how others will receive you. You walk in already knowing who you are, and that changes everything. That's when you stop being a role and start becoming a force. That's when your relationships shift, because you no longer attract from a place of need, but from fullness. The people who come near you aren't looking to fix you or claim you. They're drawn to your aliveness, to your depth, to your truth. The woman who belongs to herself is the one no man can control. Not because she's cold or closed, but because she's rooted. She doesn't chase love. She is love. She doesn't seek attention. She moves with intention. And the men who are truly ready, they feel that. So if you're tired of playing small, tired of waiting to be accepted, tired of muting your truth just to be chosen, this is your moment. Not to become someone new, but to return to who you've always been. You don't need to be predictable. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be whole. The mystery inside you isn't meant to be solved, it's meant to be lived. This journey you've just walked through isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you've always been. From the years of being conditioned to stay small, to finally seeing your shadow for what it really is, your power in disguise. From feeling misunderstood to recognizing the ancient feminine energy that lives within you. And from chasing validation to becoming a woman who belongs fully to herself. You don't need to add anything to become magnetic. You don't need to change, fix, or prove yourself. What you truly need is to let go of everything that was never yours to carry. The doubt, the shame, the silence. Start listening to that quiet voice within. Let the parts you've buried rise. And walk into the world with a kind of confidence that doesn't need to be explained. If this spoke to something deep inside you, share it. Someone out there needs this reminder too. And if you're on this journey, subscribe. Stay close. We're just getting started.